Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Club Kayfabe WrestleTalk, your weekly dose of wrestling chatter, starring me, Chris O'Mealy, and my co-host Dan Peck.
Hey, yo.
And Glenn Kukan.
Yeah, I'm here with the plague.
Hey, who's got the plague this week? So, welcome back, Glenn. Sorry you're sick, buddy.
I'll live.
And we're coming to you from the Filling the Void podcast network via Spotify, and part of the Club Kayfabe creative community, which you can find on Facebook at CKCC Online. Check us out and check out the other shows on there, including CHMR's Ring Rust, Blake and Sal Show, Clerks Minute, the MDX Podcast, Cinefan Podcast, Politically Incorrect Racing Podcast, and J Bunny's Music Hub if you're into podcasts. If you like art, we have our own artist, Brian Bindman, with Bindman Art, and if you're into cosplayers, check out our cosplayer, Heather Quinn, with Heather Quinn Cosplay. All that and more at the CKCC. Check us out on Facebook and the Twitter. And, of course, we do have our official YouTube page. Check us out, Club Kayfabe Creative Community. Now, some of you might be listening to us on YouTube. I'm getting there, don't worry. Some of you might be listening to us on YouTube. Of course, if you are listening to us on Saturday or Friday evening. Of course, if you're listening to us on Spotify, we dropped on Sunday, so hope you are having a great weekend so far. And as Dan was about to mention, Dan got us set up here. We now have an official Twitch page. Of course.
That's right. It's twitch.tv/CKCC online.
And we're going to start doing a lot of
stuff starting tomorrow.
Yes, live streaming. So you guys can check that out. So yeah, thank you guys for your continued support, and welcome to all of our new listeners. As always, if you want to join our official community, go to Facebook. Our Facebook group is called Club Kayfabe, the home of true wrestling fans. Join us. We will be required to be approved by an admin, so just let us know that, hey, you found us via Spotify or Filling the Void or however you did it, and we'll be happy to have you as part of the community. You can play our Points or Consequences game, which you'll hit at the end of the show. All right.
You've already listened to it.
And actually, no, I believe that gimmick's officially done because we've called a lot of people out on that. This is our 280th recording, only third on Spotify. But hey, thank you guys for your continued support. Of course, this type of show doesn't really have doesn't really do well with back episodes because a lot of stuff is no longer relevant. But you can check out the year in review via the YouTube. So let's get into some hashtag dryer sheet news, our fancy term for the dirt sheets.
Actually.
But before that, we got this week's trivia question.
Yes, a new segment for our new listeners.
This week's trivia question is, Steve Austin won 3 Royal Rumbles, but who was the first person he ever eliminated?
I know. I remember.
Ooh, I know too.
And I will give you a hint. He was not called Stone Cold Steve Austin when it happened.
No, he was not. No, he was not.
I'm almost 100% sure I remember.
We will give you the answer after dryer sheet news.
He was the Ringmaster.
But I think they were calling him Steve Austin at that point, though. So.
I think they were mentioning it, but he was still officially the Ringmaster.
And he was the Ringmaster.
Like...
Ringmaster Steve Austin.
Yeah.
And I'll give you guys a hint for the answer of this trivia question, too. This is, at least up until, I think, 2014 or 2015, which is when I originally read the stat, this is the person who survived the longest in a Royal Rumble in history without scoring any eliminations.
See, that's not the answer I was going to give.
Ah, well, then we are on a different page. And I know this because this
person is a piece of shit.
Yeah, that's exactly why I knew the trivia part. Oh, and by the way, we do have the expletive tag on our podcast, so we're going to curse a lot. And
So
all you kids that are listening, well, this is a grown-up podcast.
They don't care. There were probably the 10 of the 20 people I heard say the N-word in 5 seconds this morning playing Red Dead Online. I was like, yeah, you know it's launch day of an online game.
Yep.
20 different people say that word. In 10
Dan, how many times was your mother insulted?
No, they've been talking about black people the whole time.
Oh, jeez. That's somehow worse. Like, worlds worse. And this is why Chris doesn't play online games. Because
I'm mostly just going to play with my Supercard team, but I had to get through the opening stuff.
All right, so in the news, starting with the WWE. We mentioned this last week, but Glenn wasn't here, and I know he wants to talk about it. But Baron Corbin is likely going to lose his GM spot on Raw to be replaced full-time by Little Miss Bliss, who was at Disney today. Makes me sad I don't work there anymore.
Yeah.
Because I might have seen her. By the way, new listeners, I've worked at Disney and Universal for 6 years, so if you guys ever want to ask a question about that, I love shooting on that place. So, by all means, ask away. I am not afraid to shoot on that place.
Yeah, I guess
But Matt Hardy's trying to get people to tweet him or whatever, or what is he trying to do?
he wants to be the GM.
The GM, yeah.
But
Yeah, he's
I
trying to
think
get like
they're-
retweets or something.
I think they're really, really trying to backpedal in putting Bliss back in the ring. So they're like, well, you got a long contract with us, so let's find something else you can do.
It makes sense to me. If
And
you got
not for
a, if
nothing,
you got
but
a,
everybody does like her. So
if you've got a popular star, and you can find a non-wrestling role for them, I don't see why you shouldn't do that. Like, and I've been saying this since the podcast began. The manager role needs a comeback.
well, she also comes over as a very good professional.
She does. But I mean, look at like Drake Maverick and Leo Rush. Love him or hate him, they're doing great in their roles.
Sure.
And I think that's proof enough that that type of role is well needed for this type of environment. The manager role is long overdue for a comeback.
Oh, it has been for a long time. I don't even know why it ever phased out.
Yeah, because let's face it,
That's an
some
extra person to pay.
some people can't talk, and we've established that.
Yes.
For some reason,
Well,
Bobby
or
Lashley
some
cannot cut
people-
promos in this company.
Or some people shouldn't talk.
That's also true. More news regarding the Corbin match at TLC. If Braun cannot go because of his surgery, the likely fill-in will be Bray Wyatt. He did a one-off at the Starrcade show and is the considerable replacement. When we'll see Bray back full-time, there's no immediate plans. I would predict that if they don't have any plans, he'll show up in the Royal Rumble as a surprise.
However, newest update says that, well, one update is saying that Strowman is going to be out until, is still going to be at TLC. One says that he's going to be out until Rumble. However, the newest story says he will be at Raw this week.
Okay, well, we'll see.
They don't know if he's cleared for wrestling yet, but
He'll be there.
He will definitely be there.
He'll be there like Silas Young was there.
Hey, Silas
I
Young
think
was
he'll
there.
I think he'll probably be in the ring, and he will cut a promo saying that he will be at TLC and he will dismantle Baron Corbin because let's face it, he
He's
will.
gonna get these hands.
Well, Silas Young was at Raw. You know who
He
was
was.
not at Raw? Seth Rollins' curb stomp.
Yeah, you noticed that, didn't you?
Banned from TV again. Apparently, it's only a short-term thing, but I haven't heard what the legal issue is. There's something with USA, but they're just going to have him use the what is it, the Falcon Arrow or something like that.
Yeah, it's his. The Falcon Arrow.
Falcon Arrow, yeah. So,
The deal. He's gonna use
Uh,
the deal.
speaking of Seth Rollins, the original plans were Dean Ambrose was going to cost him the Intercontinental Championship against a competitor who has told us that WWE stands for, Glenn, what does it stand for?
It stands for the shirt I'm wearing. Walk with Elias.
So Elias was supposed to be getting a run as IC champion. Unfortunately, those plans have been scrapped for the time being. And Raw is just shit right now. Like, specifically the last 2 weeks have been, like, extra bad.
and this week was actually worse than last week's as far as ratings went.
Yeah. SmackDown's been great.
In company history, I think they said.
SmackDown's been great, very entertaining the whole way, especially the Becky Lynch comeback. And I thought the Women's Battle Royal was done very well.
It was. I was actually, I was in the throes of the beginning of my sickness, so I was like in and out of consciousness during it. But I went and rewatched it, and I enjoyed it. I thought the right person went over, and yeah, overall it was a good show top to bottom, and the ratings reflected it because it came within 100K of Raw, which is the closest it's been in a long time.
Yeah, well, with the whole Fox thing coming up, they really want it to be this separate brand because they don't want to do the cross promotion. They even want Ronda Rousey.
It sounds like they're gonna get her.
Yeah, so I think
we're gonna have like a big superstar shakeup draft.
Yeah.
Just like when they moved the last time from the last brand split, where they like did some drastic change. Like Triple H went to SmackDown.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they're gonna have to do something drastic because they're probably gonna have to talk to everybody in the back. Do you want to be more wrestling oriented, or do you want to be more storyline oriented?
And then they realize they have 10 people to do 3 hours of Raw.
Well, that's basically all they use for 3 hours of Raw, so I mean, this was such a cluster show, and it was like it was basically built to be a showcase for Corbin, McIntyre, and Lashley, but even they looked like crap. The show is just
what it's been for 2+ weeks now.
And they don't have a champion again, so nobody's fighting over anything. It's just there's only been a couple of real highlights.
Well,
Alexa Bliss's interactions with the women's division were good, although the Sasha Bailey segment fell completely flat.
Yes.
And it shouldn't have, because it was actually set up to be a good segment, especially because they buried the This Is Your Life segment, which I thought was pretty funny. And the other real highlight is Elias.
Well, all right, and I'll say it because nobody else will, because everybody's been shitting on it for, ever. Rollins and Ziggler were fucking awesome this week.
People were shitting on that?
People were shitting on that all day long.
How? That was like one of the best TV matches of the year. How are people shitting on it?
They were saying, oh, well, it's just the same old bullshit over and over and over again. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. I was like, whoa. It may be the same bullshit. Yes, they have worked 56 times this year in some capacity, one-on-one or tag team. But still, they put the two of them can put on a hell of a match, and this week was no exception. Oh yeah. You look it up. Pretty much everybody was shitting all over it.
I don't want to look it up because I'm just going to get angry if I look it up.
I got into a lot of arguments over it.
This is why I like our Club Kayfabe community, because we don't have these fans in here, and when they do show up, they don't last long. So, but obviously that Lars Sullivan call up is still happening.
Yes,
we know.
They unlike them, because I think you guys said it last week. If you didn't hear anything about him, chances are not happening.
But they ran the promos. My thing is,
that's all, was all shit he said years ago.
People dig up that stuff all the time.
Of course.
But here's my thing. I don't think Lars Sullivan is very good. So what's he going to do on the main roster that's going to be any different?
He's this generation Snitsky.
Because he's ugly.
Well, I mean, let's face it. That's kind of how they're billing him as. He's a big dude who is just going to manhandle people. That's really what it's going to be.
Yeah, so they haven't halted the debut, but
they haven't mentioned.
Is he just going to fucking job?
And they also haven't mentioned what show he's going to be working.
Well, remember they hyped up that Dan May